You're listening to an Ono Media podcast.
Good morning, and thanks for joining me for Rise in Crime, your morning caffeine hit all about crime. I'm Mama Jules, and I'm going to start today talking about perceptions. You know, when you see people and you make a snap judgment, something like, that person likes reggae music because of the way they are dressed. But maybe they actually don't like reggae music. Or that person looks disheveled, so they must be lazy. When, in fact, they might be super smart and just too preoccupied to pay superior attention to their appearance. Well, the first case today has this aspect. Two brothers that look like they have it all together. They have privilege and good looks and athleticism and perceived charisma. They might have those things, but just last week, they added murder charges and death and animal cruelty to the list of life experiences. And believe me, it doesn't match their family photos or probably our perceived ideas. It's all going down in New Jersey, where the Heren brothers, David, he's the oldest, Matthew, the middle, and Joseph, the youngest, well, they all grew up in a $1 million plus home in a shore town in New Jersey. All three were standout athletes at Toms Rivers North High School, ranging in the years from 2006 to 2016. David, now 34 years old, well, he was a minor league golfer who graduated from Coastal Carolina University with a BA in finance. And Matthew, who is now 31 years old, and Joseph, who is now 26 years old, well, they both excelled in soccer. Matthew attended the elite Wesleyan University playing soccer. And when I say elite, yearly tuition is about $70,000. But Joseph, or Joey as they called him, was the true star, outshining his brothers. He attended the University of Michigan, where he was a 3-time academic All-Big Ten soccer player and a 3-time U of M Athletic Academic Achievement Award recipient. Like I said, good-looking, smart, athletic. And in 2020, Joey graduated with a bachelor's degree in business administration, and he returned to New Jersey, this time in Princeton, where he worked for Locust Point Capital as a finance analyst. Now, the three boys, David Jr., Matthew, and Joey, their parents, David Sr. and Deborah, well, they also had quite the life. They continued excelling and creating wealth. When the boys were younger, David Sr. began working for Wireline Networks. That's a business internet provider, and it spans 45 states. David continued through the company hierarchy, and now, according to David Sr.'s LinkedIn page, he serves as the president and chief financial officer of the multi-million-dollar company. Now, this picture of all-American wealth and success, it was shattered a week ago on Saturday when at 11:16 p.m. a 911 call was placed. The caller, who has now been revealed to be the middle brother, Matthew, well, he told dispatch that there was a fire and a dead body within a residence at the Michelle Muse Apartments in Princeton. The word apartments probably doesn't do this justice. These are $2 million units, and the Michelle Muse Apartments are where Deborah and David Sr. now live. When officers arrived at the luxury unit, they found Matthew with a knife, a golf club, and his dead brother Joey. Now, the autopsy results have yet to be reported when I took this podcast to production, but for first responders, it was obvious that Joey had suffered severe blunt force trauma and several knife wounds. Matthew was arrested immediately and has since been charged with first-degree murder, several weapons offenses, and 1 count of third-degree animal cruelty. Yeah, there's an animal cruelty charge because he also allegedly killed the family's cat. Now, an anonymous law enforcement official said that the scene inside the luxury apartment was gruesome, that the violence was, quote, overboard, and that the reported fire was due to Matthew allegedly setting the cat ablaze. The Mercer County Prosecutor's Office said the following: The complaint alleges that Matthew purposely or knowingly engaged in conduct that led to the death of his younger brother and caused the death of a cat that was located within the residence. All right, why? That seems to be the biggest question at this point. Just months before the murderous scene was reported last Saturday, Matthew posted a poem describing knives and blood and pain on his Facebook account. I'm going to read it for you. It's pretty disturbing. Here's how it goes. What have you created? Why have you created it? Who are you trying to strangle? And what God are you serving? I can see the knives sharpening. I can hear the arrows whizzing. I can feel my heart beating. But can he? Someone sits alone in that room where the walls shake. He still has a pulse. Blood still flows through his veins, but something is wrapped around him, squeezing him, choking him, suffocating him, tightly wound around his head, fastened deep in his throat. Blood oozes out of his eyes. His ears are sparking. His face vibrates. He convulses, and he doesn't stop. He's lost. He's asleep. He's dead. Okay, disturbing. There is no other word for this, but it leaves me asking, is there a mental decline occurring in Matthew? Maybe. I mean, there's some red flags here. I will say this. His mugshot that was released late last week shows a man whose eyes have very little light and life. And of course, that's just my opinion. I'll post the mugshot on Rise and Crime's social media pages. You can decide for yourself. But just one day before the alleged murder, Matthew posted a picture of him laying next to an $8 cat toy on the floor. In that picture, his stare is pretty blank. That's the word I've got for it. It's just blank. So we have at least 2 photos with lifeless eyes. And Matthew does not have a violent criminal past, so this just does not match. What does he have? He has one February of 2017 DUI arrest and a couple of traffic tickets. That's all. Now, Joseph Mahon, who coached both Matthew and Joey at Toms River North High School, told the New York Post that the Hurtkins are great people. He said David Sr. and Deborah were just wonderful. He said both parents treated him well as a coach of their sons. He also clarified they'd do anything he asked on and off the field. He specifically said that Matthew, the accused killer, was very intelligent, that he got great grades and was a superior talent. He also told the Post that the boys' former teammates are just gutted by this horrific news. Now, when he was asked about Joey, Coach Mahone said that Joey was their best player and that he was a natural leader, and he gave him what might be the best compliment when he said Joey made Toms River North a better place to be. Now, if Matthew is convicted of his current charges that include murder, he could face 30 years to life in prison. Let me know what you think of this breaking case. Now to another devastating crime that also involves athletes, except this time it's football, North Carolina, and an ATV. This all happened back in August of 2024 when 2 juniors on the Rosman High School football team attended a house party on a Saturday evening. Lane Jones and Jaden Ronaldo, both 16, were driving a 2015 Polaris ATV. It looks like a four-wheeler. And they were driving at a high rate of speed down a rural road at about 1 a.m. Suddenly, they veered off the road and struck a tree. Both teens were ejected off the four-wheeler and both succumbed to their injuries at that scene. Well, immediately, and I mean less than 24 hours later, Jim Conta from the North Carolina State Highway Patrol, well, he was telling local media that the boys weren't intoxicated and that it was just the high rate of speed that caused the tragic accident. At the time, the community was understandably devastated. The Transylvania County Schools put out a statement recognizing the unimaginable loss being experienced by the families and the community and the high school student body and faculty. Here, I'm going to read a portion of the statement. Here's how it goes. In moments like these, words often fall short. Our hearts are broken and we are grieving together as a community. The loss of such young, vibrant lives is a stark reminder of how precious life is and how deeply we are all connected. As we process this tragedy, we encourage everyone to lean on one another for support and comfort. We have set up counseling services at the school for students and staff who need a safe space to express their grief and find solace. Please do not hesitate to reach out. No one should feel alone in this difficult time. As we remember these students, let us honor their memory by coming together as a community, just as they would have wanted. Whether it's through sharing stories or lending a shoulder to cry on, or simply being there for one another, let us find strength in our unity. Now, I wanted to read that to you specifically so we could tuck away a bit of info. The school district is expressly saying that everyone needs a safe place to grieve and find solace. It's a very well-written statement, but I just want you to remember that part, a safe place. Well, that statement came out on the Monday following the crash. That Friday, the boys were scheduled to play a home game against North Henderson. The community rallied at that game, and it was continued as scheduled. The crowd was asked to orange out, which means dress in all orange to show support for the Rosamond student body and football team more specifically. Now, something special happened at that football game. The Rosamond team left Jaden and Lane's positions unfilled on the football field. So what that means is only 9 players would be on the football field for Rosamond, leaving the 2 positions open in memory of Lane and Jaden. Both teams allowed the play to just carry forward and the clock to expire at the end of the game as a form of remembrance for the teens. Well, earlier in the week, 2 food trucks had gathered together and at a memorial for the boys, and all the proceeds were donated to help the families in their time of struggle. Clearly, this community's coming together. On that Saturday after the football game, Lane's funeral and burial were held. And the next day, on Sunday, Jaden was remembered and buried. His services were held in the high school gym. As friends and family carried on with life, the investigation into the accident continued. And it would be interesting to know how much the community knew about the investigation over the last few months. The deaths happened at the end of August. That leaves us with 5 months of people, probably asking questions and probably letting law enforcement know that, hey, this wasn't just an unfortunate accident. Now, the source material in the case isn't reflecting what the small community was maybe talking about in hushed conversations, but we know how communities work. And my guess is Transylvania County residents weren't all that surprised to hear last week that a former substitute teacher has now been arrested and charged with 2 counts of felony involuntary manslaughter in connection with Lane and Jaden's accident on that ATV. 34-year-old Ashley Marie Darity was arrested on February 13th and has since been released on a $20,000 bond. The Department of Public Safety said in its statement that they have now determined that alcohol was a factor in the crash and that the 2 teens had been attending a house party where they were presumably consuming alcohol just prior to the accident. So remember how I asked you to tuck away the safe place part of the school district statement? Well, Ashley worked for that district in 2021, 2022, and 2023. The district isn't confirming or denying if she worked with the teens at Rosamond High. Okay, leaves me asking a lot of questions. But there is one more thing. It wasn't just Ashley that was arrested. 2 others have been charged with aiding and abetting a person under the age of 21 years old. And all of this came down at the same time. So basically, the 2 others are charged with supplying teens with alcohol. 47-year-old Brandon Kane Rathbone and 33-year-old Patricia Faye Whitehead. They're charged with supplying alcohol, but not with involuntary manslaughter. The information obtained by NBC News says the date of Brandon and Patricia's offense was actually on June 10th of 2023. That's more than a year before Lane and Jaden's deaths. Now, that warrant also specifically says they held an underage teen girl up in the air to do a keg stand and consume alcohol. Patricia's warrant contains additional information referencing a February of 2023 episode where she purchased a Twisted Tea alcoholic beverage for an underage person. Now, it'll be interesting to see why Ashley has a stronger connection to the boys from that night, and if Brandon and Patricia were actually at the house party but didn't provide the alcohol on the exact night of the tragic deaths, but somehow had a connection in history with these teens. There's lots of unanswered questions here. The glaring question in my head is, why these much older adults, like nearly 20 years older, why are they partying with kids? The authorities say the investigation is continuing, and I'll watch this one and let you know when further information comes forward. I wanted to take a minute, though, and tell you a little bit about the teens. Jaden was known for giving everyone a silly nickname. He himself went by Jay, and he loved fishing, hunting, playing sports with his brothers, and just being silly with people, teasing even new friends. And Lane was remembered as the kid who could make anyone smile. He loved his nieces and nephews, who he spent time with often. And above all, he loved his best friend, a dog named Kaya. May these two families find some sort of peace in the potential justice that could be provided here. And as a side note, if you're from this area, let us know what the last 5 months have been like. Did the community know these arrests were coming? All right, when I saw this story last week, I knew I had to bring it to you. And because this all takes place in Volusia County, Florida, and Florida has open reporting laws of crime, we get a front row seat to a Florida teen's arrest. So what did she do? Well, the irate teen got mad at her ex-boyfriend because she said he owed her $700. And when he wouldn't pay it back, she allegedly decided to get retribution by vandalizing his black Infiniti car with yellow spray paint. Except her ex-boyfriend doesn't own a black Infiniti. She spray painted the wrong car. Here, I want you to listen to the arrest of the teen because this Volusia County deputy provides the entertainment here. But let me set it up for you first. When cops arrive, a teen is allegedly drunk and behind the wheel of her car. And walking away from the car is another teen, a female in a red hoodie and gray sweatpants. And the new paint job on the Infiniti includes the word devil, there's multiple smiley faces, then the word Jason across the hood, or at least that's what it appears to say, and then some other poorly drawn hieroglyphics. With that as context, I want you to listen to the arrest.
Stop.
I wasn't involved in this. I wasn't involved in
Who
this.
is involved?
I wasn't involved in this.
All right, shut your car off. Who is this? Hey, I don't care. Stay over here. Stay over here.
I'm not involved with this.
I don't care. I told you to stay right there.
Just stay there.
Central, I'm out with him. You guys can come on over to the far side. Motor 91, you busy?
No, I'm not.
Appreciate it. How old are you? 18. That's not too smart to be chugging down some Four Locos and be driving a car. This one's not involved, but she has yellow spray paint from head to toe. Have a seat.
I was on it.
Have a seat. Jesus. I mean, she's definitely involved. I don't know if you guys saw, but she's covered in yellow spray paint. And she threw all of her dope over here.
I tried picking up the motor, but nobody's answering.
You really need to try harder to try to be sneaky because you are god awful. And you guys spray painted the wrong damn car. Yeah, it's that neighbor's car.
You guys, honestly, that deputy is hilarious. The teen behind the wheel of the, quote, getaway car has been identified as 18-year-old Evelina Fabianski. She can be identified since she's an adult. The 16-year-old, who is, quote, covered from head to toe in paint, well, her name has not been released. Cops also discovered 2 open bottles of Four Loko inside the getaway car, along with 33 grams of marijuana, a glass pipe, and an empty bottle of Crown Royal. Inside the trunk was another can of yellow spray paint. In an interview with deputies, Evelina, okay, she's the 18-year-old, well, she allegedly said she was upset with her ex-boyfriend due to the money issue. The 16-year-old, well, she told deputies she just tagged along to have a good time. The 2 teens also allegedly threw eggs at the vandalized car. Now, as I researched this story, it left me wondering why they didn't flee when the boyfriend's mom came outside and confronted them. I mean, they had to get 911 called on them somehow. Well, it seems the 16-year-old did initially flee in the car, leaving Evelina standing on the street near the car that was wrongly spray painted. But then she returned for Evelina, and the 2 girls talked with the owner of the vandalized car. Evelina had then gotten into the getaway car when cops rolled up on the scene. Now, the owner of the vandalized car told media it will cost about $5,000 to repair the damage. Evelina was charged with vandalism, contributing to the delinquency of a child, possession of an alcoholic beverage by a person under 21 years of age, and also driving under the influence. She was booked into the Volusia County Jail and has since posted bond. The 16-year-old? Well, she was taken to the Volusia County Family Resource Center. Now, what might be my favorite comment on the Volusia County Facebook post about this crime reads like this. Now, we all know why she is an ex-girlfriend. But even better on that Facebook post, the owner of the car weighed in. His name is Jonathan. He said he wasn't going to try to clean up the car. He just scraped the yellow paint off the windows. Instead, he's going to have Evelina pay for the damage. And I want you to remember something else. Remember how the word Jason was spray painted across the hood? Well, the owner of the car is named Jonathan. At least she got the J right. That's about all she got right that night. And to finish the podcast today, have you been following this crazy story out of North Carolina that has a man originally claiming his girlfriend locked him in a storage unit? But now he's telling WSOC it's, quote, just a bunch of bogus charges. So let's get into it. On Wednesday, February 26th, 52-year-old Robin Deaton, well, she was arrested and charged with attempted murder and kidnapping. 2 days prior, on the 24th, Monroe Police Department received a 911 call from Gary Oxendine. Now, he told the dispatcher he had been locked in a storage unit for, quote, about a week now. A week? He's been locked in a storage unit for a week. Okay, he said he was just now calling 911 because he finally found his phone in the locked unit. Well, the 911 operator, dumbfounded, said, "So you're locked in a storage unit?" He responded with this, "Yes, my girlfriend locked me in here. She doubled up my lock and I don't know how she put me in here, but she put me in here and I just now found my phone inside this storage unit. I've been here since last week." Well, when the dispatcher asked Gary if he needed EMS, he responded by saying, "I just need out of here. I just can't breathe. I haven't anything to drink or anything. I know there's 2 locks on the unit. She put 2 locks on it for some reason." Okay, I know he's clarifying some stuff here, but I'm still stuck on a week. Had he been in there for a week? Well, when police forced their way into the unit and began their investigation, they discovered it had been just 4 days. But still, 4 days. Now, Gary was taken to the hospital for dehydration. When officers questioned him before he was taken by EMS, he doubled down on what he had said in the 911 call. He said his girlfriend locked him inside the extremely full and dark storage unit after they got in a fight. He said it took him several days to find his phone since the unit was crowded and unlit. All of this was what was being reported on the 26th when Robin was arrested. In fact, I almost brought you this story in the last episode, but all of it's changed because as of Friday, Gary is singing a different tune. He's telling WSOC that his girlfriend Robin left him at the storage unit while she just went to go get something to eat. He said he then fell asleep in the unit. When she returned to the unit, Gary now claims that Robin just didn't see him inside the unit or hear him yell out to her. He says she must have assumed he had left and she locked the door, trapping him inside for 4 days. Now don't worry, Gary has an explanation for the 4 days. He says that Robin assumed he had run off with an ex-girlfriend. He then said the following: "That's what it all boils down to. I hadn't gone with an ex-girlfriend. Robin said she came the next day, but I sleep hard and I fell asleep in the unit. I had been up working for a couple of days." Well, after this interview was given to WSOC, Public Information Officer Morgan Malone told People magazine that, quote, "The detectives followed the facts of the case with corroborating evidence to support the charges. The charges have been filed and the case has been turned over to the district attorney's office. Unfortunately, it is not uncommon for a domestic violence victim to recant their initial testimony." Okay, Malone also went on to say that originally, Gary said that Robin had convinced him to crawl to the back of the storage unit to grab something for her, and that once he got toward the back of the unit, she slammed the door shut, locking him in. He also said she yelled, "This is what you get," as she left the area. Malone did offer clarification on the storage unit, calling it a hoarder's paradise. Officers allegedly had to dodge items that fell out of the unit as soon as they opened the door. Okay, this whole entire Rise in Crime episode has just left me with more questions than answers. In this specific case, how was his phone still charged after 4 days? My phone doesn't keep a charge that long, and I have a new phone. And clearly, he has ex-girlfriends. If his phone was charged and it was just a big misunderstanding, why didn't he call Robin? Or why didn't he call one of his exes? Okay, another one. Was there something to drink in the storage unit? Maybe like a case of water? Did he already have a mug with him? Okay, those are just 3 questions I can think of. I am sure you have way more. Let me know in the comments. And now to the comments from Monday's episode in reference to the trial of Benjamin. That's the kid from Texas who killed his twin sister by stabbing her to death. Okay, remember he claimed he was sleepwalking when he stabbed her? Well, I had noted that Benjamin had pretty much no emotion throughout the trial and his arrest and his interrogation. In fact, he was just kind of doodling when he was told that he was guilty. Well, Laura said his autism might be the reason for no emotion. And yes, I totally agree, Laura, and maybe I didn't make that understandable in the podcast. I think it absolutely played into his actions. But remember, his defense didn't make a big deal of it. In fact, they kind of doubled down, indicating that he didn't have any health or mental issues. So my thoughts are, could that have been a mistake in front of the jury? Did they miss an opportunity to explain about his personality? Because you have to believe they were looking at him much like I was and watching his interrogation video and watching him react on the night when he killed his sister and wondering, where is the emotion? Well, Anthony on YouTube, he said he actually has autism and he doesn't usually share or show his emotions either. So Anthony, weigh in here again. Do you think the defense should have highlighted that more? And Adrianic, I don't know if I'm saying that right, but that's the handle on YouTube. They're a neurophysiologist and they gave us some context on sleep disorders. They said it is very rare, but scans of the brain have shown that activity can be happening and the test subject can remain asleep through that activity. Tanith said she has narcolepsy and she's been known to wake up while she's walking around and she can find herself climbing on things. She said she even broke a toe once while sleepwalking. And for those offering up case suggestions, keep them coming. I'm looking into them. I love to cover what you're interested here on Rise in Crime. Well, that's your Monday episode of Rise in Crime. Thank you for being here. Please tell a friend about the podcast. You could even share this episode or one of your favorite episodes with that friend. And we love 5-star reviews and positive comments here at Rise in Crime. Please go ahead and like and follow all of our social media accounts and our YouTube accounts at Oh No Media. That's Murder with My Husband, Into the Dark, and Rise in Crime. Join me again on Thursday for more morning crime news. I'm Mama Jules, and keep safe out there.